So grab your parkas, grab your overpriced espresso, because for the very last time, we are heading up the mountain.
To Park City.
To Park City. Sundance 2026 is officially a wrap, and, it feels a bit like the end of an era.
It really does. Like the end of a long, snowy marriage. After all those decades, the whole operation is moving.
Yep. Packing up the tents and heading to Boulder, Colorado next year.
It's just a massive shift, isn't it? I mean, logistically, but also culturally. For so many film buds, Park City, that was Sundance.
Totally. The shuttle buses, the
altitude sickness.
The crowded Main Street, that whole thing was the experience. But what really struck me this year wasn't just the nostalgia.
What was it?
It was the atmosphere. You'd expect, I don't know, a last hurrah kind of vibe, right?
Yeah, fireworks, champagne, a big victory lap. But that is not what I was reading in the dispatches at all.
No.
Muted was the word I kept seeing over and over. It sounded less like a party and more like, awake? That's a really fair assessment. And I don't think it was just about leaving Utah. It feels like it's reflecting this broader anxiety in the whole film industry right now.
You mean with the streaming bubble bursting and everything?
Exactly. The acquisition market, where these indie films get their big paydays, it's cooled way down. Fewer bidding wars, fewer of those, explosive premieres. I think people were just worried about the bottom line.
Which is exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive. Because while the execs are stressing over spreadsheets, the artists, they were doing the work. We've combed through the whole slate, and even with that muted backdrop, the films themselves were loud and weird and just incredibly inventive.
And that's the irony, isn't it? Sometimes when the money dries up, the creativity gets even sharper.
So we've picked out 9 films we think you really need to know about. We're not just going to list them. We've kind of grouped them by the questions they're asking.
We've got films on trauma, docs on history, and my personal favorite section.
The weird and whimsical.
Yes. Which includes a woman marrying a husband literally made of twigs.
And somehow that's not even the strangest thing we're going to talk about.
Not even close.
Okay, so let's start with the heavy hitters. These are the big narrative films, and we have to begin with the one that basically won everything. It's called Josephine.
It took home the Audience Award and the Grand Jury Prize. That's like the Sundance Grand Slam. It almost never happens.
I saw the log line for this, and honestly, my guard went up. It's about an 8-year-old girl who witnesses a violent assault. You've got Channing Tatum and Gemma Chan as the parents.
Right.
On paper, that just screams, trauma porn or some heavy-handed after-school special. But apparently it's doing something really different.
It is. The director, Beth de Araujo, she made this very specific choice. The camera almost never leaves the child's eye level.
So it stays low to the ground.
It stays low. It's immersive. So you're not watching the trauma from the outside. You're experiencing the sensory fragmentation of it through her perspective.
Wow. That sounds incredibly claustrophobic.
It is. And it completely changes how you see the parents. They aren't the hero parents who swoop in to fix everything. They're just paralyzed.
Because they can't even articulate what happened to themselves.
Let alone to their daughter. Exactly. So you have this silence in the house. The parents are fighting, but they're not talking about the thing.
And the little girl, Josephine, she has to fill that void. And how she fills it is, well, it's terrifying.
You're talking about the imaginary friend?
Yes. She starts acting out, which you'd expect.
Yeah.
But then she creates this imaginary friend who isn't like a pony or a fairy.
No.
The friend is based on the perpetrator of the assault.
And that detail is what elevates this. It's so unsettling to watch a child play with the image of her attacker. But it forces you to confront this really hard philosophical question.
Which is?
You can't hermetically seal a child's innocence. Once that violence enters their world, it becomes part of their logic. It becomes part of their play. The film just sits in that messy reality without offering an easy out.
Which is why it won, I guess. It respects the audience. Okay, speaking of messy realities with no easy solutions, let's pivot to The Invite.
Yes. The most stressful sounding comedy of the year.
Cringe comedy with a capital C. It's directed by Olivia Wilde, and she plays a woman who decides the best way to fix her failing marriage
To Seth Rogen.
is to ambush him with a surprise dinner party.
Which is just, as a life rule, never do that.
Laughs. It's a total recipe for disaster.
Yes.
But the casting is what's so interesting to me here. Seth Rogen is usually the loud one.
Right, but here he's playing against type. He is the MVP of this film. He's capturing that specific male anxiety of just trying to keep a lid on everything while you're internally screaming.
And then you have the neighbors they invite over. Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz.
And they are described as aggressively thriving.
I love that. So they're the foil.
They're the total foil. While Rogen and Wilde are living in the silent misery, the neighbors are loud, they're tactile, and they're very public with their affection.
And I read that the sound design is key here, that you can constantly hear the neighbors enjoying each other's company through the walls.
Yeah, it's this brilliant way to build tension. The movie suggests the worst part of a failing relationship isn't the fighting, it's the denial.
It's the performance. And we, the audience, just get to watch the whole train wreck.
Exactly. It's fun, for us at least.
Okay, so from fictional chaos to historical chaos, the documentary slate was incredible this year. And they all seem to be playing with this idea of the record, what gets recorded and why.
And the first one, Once Upon a Time in Harlem, is just a miracle that it exists at all.
It's a time capsule.
Literal time capsule. This footage sat in a vault for 50 years.
Okay, set the scene for us. It's 1972.
August 1972. You're at the home of Duke Ellington. And the filmmaker, William Greaves, he throws a party for the titans of the Harlem Renaissance. We're talking Lee Whipper, U.B. Blake, Noble Sissel.
So the old guard.
The old guard, exactly. They're in the twilight years, looking back. And Greaves just let the cameras roll. They're drinking, they're bickering, they're laughing. It's totally unvarnished.
But he never finished it.
No. It was his son, David Greaves, who finally stitched it all together. And he does this really smart thing where he takes this casual party footage and splices it with archival evidence of what these people actually achieved.
So you see them as like these frail, elderly men joking around.
And then boom, cut to them on stage 50 years earlier, changing the world. It reminds you that history isn't just dates in a book, it's people in a living room.
Wow. Okay, so if that documentary is about the warmth of a living room, the next one is about the most hostile place on Earth. The last first, Winter K2. I gotta ask, we've seen a lot of climbing docs. Did we need another one?
I was skeptical too, but this one kind of flips the script. Usually nature docs are about our impact on nature. This one is about nature's absolute total indifference to us.
And K2 in winter is. I mean, it's basically outer space.
It is. The film tells you right up front that K2 had never been summited in winter. The conditions are just incompatible with human life.
And it also tells you from the start that it ends in tragedy.
Right, so it's not a will they make it story.
It's a why on earth are they doing this story?
Exactly. It's a study in hubris. It looks at the competitiveness, the ego, the nationalism that drives people to walk into a death zone.
And it sort of implicates us, the audience, for watching.
It absolutely does. It asks, why are we addicted to the spectacle? At what point does perseverance just become a suicide mission we're all cheering for?
That's a heavy question. Okay, moving from physical survival to, well, legal survival. The third documentary, Silenced. This one tackles the aftermath of #MeToo.
This is a difficult film, but a really necessary one. It looks at 3 high-profile cases: Brittany Higgins in Australia, Amber Heard here in the U.S., and Catalina Ruz Navarro in Colombia.
And it's important to say the film isn't trying to relitigate the original allegations.
No, it's looking at the legal mechanism that came after, specifically these retaliatory defamation lawsuits.
Where the accused men who denied wrongdoing turn around and sue their accusers.
Right. It shifts the entire burden of proof. It's no longer, did he do it? It becomes, can she prove she didn't illegally damage his reputation?
And the film tracks how that legal strategy weaponizes the, quote, court of public opinion.
It really does. I mean, we all saw it with the Amber Heard trial. The cameras, the memes, the film shows how the legal system and the internet can feed off each other to just crush an accuser regardless of the facts. It's about the staggering cost of speaking out.
That is heavy stuff. And I think we need a hard pivot.
I agree.
We've done trauma, frozen death, and legal warfare. Let's talk about the section of the festival that was just delightfully weird.
Yes, the weird and whimsical. This is where you find the real gems.
And we have to start with the title that sounds like homework: The History of Concrete.
Labs, do not judge a John Wilson movie by its title.
For anyone who doesn't know him, he's the guy behind How To with John Wilson on HBO. He makes these, like, philosophical video essays about random New York stuff, but concrete.
It's not about construction. He's using concrete as a symbol for our desire for order, for uniformity, for permanence.
Okay.
It's our attempt to pour something messy into a mold and make it stay that way forever.
But the film goes on these wild detours, right? Like, he visits a bubble gum removal company.
Yes, because gum on the sidewalk disrupts the perfect gray slate. But my favorite tangent is when he visits a writer's room for Hallmark movies.
Wait. Connect those dots for me. How do you get from concrete sidewalks to Hallmark movies?
Think about it. A Hallmark movie is narrative concrete. It's a formula. It's predictable. It's uniform. It is structured to never, ever surprise you.
Oh, that is brilliant. So he's contrasting his own messy, wandering style with this, like, flockbuster concrete style.
Exactly. It's a whole meditation on making art and what kind of art actually lasts.
Okay, speaking of weird and personal, Wicker. I need you to explain this to me slowly.
Yeah. This is, hands down, the best premise of the entire festival.
I'm ready.
Olivia Colman plays a fisherwoman in a medieval village. She's an outcast, she smells like fish, and she marries a husband made of wicker.
A husband made of a bundle of twigs.
A literal bundle of twigs, yes. Played by Alexander Skarsgård in heavy prosthetics.
The idea of Skarsgård, this giant of a man playing a flammable husband, is just hilarious. But it's satire, right? It's not just a long gag.
It's biting satire. In this village, they marry women off with collars, not rings. It's a super rigid patriarchal society.
And the wicker husband just breaks their brains.
Totally. Especially the queen bee, played by Elizabeth Debicki.
Okay.
Because the fisherwoman just keeps working. She doesn't submit to her husband because her husband is, well, he's furniture. The wicker man exposes how ridiculous all their gender roles are.
But does it work emotionally?
That's the Olivia Colman magic. She plays it with this heartbreaking sincerity. She genuinely loves this wicker man. She grounds the whole absurd thing in real yearning.
I love when a film takes a big swing like that. Which brings us to Hashan. Shake Your Booty.
An incredible title.
10 out of 10 title. So this is set in Tokyo. Rinko Kikuchi plays a young widow who loves ballroom dancing. So far, so normal.
And then the hallucinations begin.
She starts seeing her dead husband, but he's not a ghost. He's wearing a giant raven costume.
Like a sports mascot, yeah.
How does that not just derail the whole movie?
You'd think it would, but think about what grief is like. Grief is surreal. The world feels absurd. The film just leans into that. The raven costume represents the weirdness of loss. It's big, it's awkward, and you just have to learn to dance around it.
Literally dance around.
Literally. The
Yeah.
film just bobs and weaves between these colorful dance numbers and crushing sadness. It refuses to pick one tone, and that makes it feel more human.
All right, one last category. We're calling this one The Defiant Spirit, and it's a film called The Friend's House is Here.
The backstory on this one is a thriller in itself.
It was smuggled out of Tehran. The filmmakers risked imprisonment just to get this to Park City.
That context just adds so much weight. But what's so amazing about the film is that it's not a misery dirge. It's not just about suffering.
That's the defiant part.
That is the act of defiance. It follows two roommates, a theater director and a dancer, who are banned from working. But instead of just sitting in the dark, they create.
They dance in their living rooms. They throw loud, illegal dinner parties.
It's joy as an act of resistance. The regime wants them to be silent and miserable. And by laughing and dancing and just being with their friends inside their own four walls, they're fighting back.
You know, that reminds me of the Harlem documentary, the idea of the living room as a sanctuary.
That's a beautiful connection. When the outside world is hostile, art and friendship aren't just hobbies. They're survival mechanisms.
So let's zoom out. We've gone from K2 to a wicker husband to a dance party in Tehran. What's the through line here? What is this class of 2026 telling us?
I keep coming back to that John Wilson film about concrete. We started this whole conversation talking about Sundance moving, about the industry feeling shaky.
Right, the concrete is cracking.
It is. The big, permanent institutions are shifting. But what I think these films are suggesting is that the most durable things aren't the solid blocks.
It's the fragile things.
It's the relationships. It's the connections. Whether it's a little girl inventing a friend to process her world, or a woman projecting love onto a wicker man, or friends dancing in a Tehran apartment.
The structures might be falling down.
But the human need to communicate, to say, I am here and I feel this, that's indestructible.
That is a really fascinating place to leave it. We worry so much about the industry, the platforms, the concrete of the business. But maybe the art that actually lasts is the art that admits it's fragile.
The wicker husband might be flammable, but I guarantee you'll remember him a lot longer than you'll remember a concrete sidewalk.
I think you're right. Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the final Park City Sundance. Keep an eye out for these titles. They might just surprise you. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.